PlayStation VR always had a tough road ahead of it. Compared to high-end gaming PCs needed to power the Oculus Rift and HTC Vive, the PlayStation 4 is underpowered. The fact that Sony was retrofitting its old 2010 released Move controllers and PlayStation camera to work with PSVR, which were peripherals that weren't initially designed for VR, also does not bode well for the platform. After going eyes-on with it for the past few days, I must admit that it's surprisingly impressive in some areas, but it also has some issues. One area where PSVR could use improvement is with resolution. The visuals unfortunately look a little blurry. The head-mounted display uses a 5.7-inch 1920 by 1080 resolution stereoscopic 3D screen. While 1080p is fine on a TV that's several feet in front of you, it's a whole different story when the display is magnified in front of your eyes. PSVR also supports a 120Hz refresh rate panel, which allows the HMD to render up to 120 frames per second. Having a high frame rate is essential in VR, because when the frame rate dips too low, VR nausea may start to kick in. Poor head tracking can also lead to VR motion sickness. Luckily, that isn't a problem here. PSVR has 9 positional tracking LEDs on the HMD, and features just 18 milliseconds of latency. The headset itself may look bulky, but it feels really light despite weighing 1.3 pounds. It helps that the weight of PSVR is balanced from the front to the back. Its overall ergonomics makes it the most comfortable HMD to wear. PSVR supplies its own earbuds and supports 3D audio, which, coupled with positional head tracking, does a great job enhancing the immersion of VR. It is important to note that PSVR requires a PlayStation camera, which is sold separately from the base package. Furthermore, to get the full VR experience and to get your hands into VR, you're gonna want to get Sony's Move controllers, which are also sold separately. PSVR can deliver some incredibly immersive experiences. Despite being a passive experience, Shark Encounter, which is a short demo within the PlayStation VR Worlds compilation, can be riveting. It virtually places you in a shark cage and anchors you deep down into the ocean, where you encounter a massive great white shark that's out to eat you. Seeing it pry open your cage with its sharp teeth provides a sense of danger that is impossible to replicate on a traditional display. The London heist is also another PSVR highlight. Seeing a mobster point the barrel of his gun at your head is unnerving, but in the coolest way. Being able to shoot back at gangsters is also wildly fun. One concern that I had going into this review is whether or not the Move controllers would be accurate enough for VR, but they do a surprisingly good job of tracking your hands. While there's a lot to like about PSVR, it also has issues. The PlayStation camera has a relatively small field of view, and you'll lose tracking if either your controller or headset pops outside of its FOV. Also, when I stepped more than 8 feet away from the camera, everything started to awkwardly shift in and out. It's not the end of the world by any means, but it definitely feels like an ecosystem that's cobbled together using existing parts. Furthermore, because PSVR only uses one camera, the Move controllers will get occluded if you turn completely around, as the camera needs to see the light emitting from the controller to track it. What this means on a fundamental level is that we are likely not to get 360 experiences. It's also unfortunate that the Move controllers don't have a D-pad or movement stick, as this further limits PSVR's capabilities. Despite all these little technical deficiencies, the biggest issue plaguing PSVR is motion sickness. Your mileage may vary here, as some people don't have issues with VR nausea. I, unfortunately, am not one of them. Many of the first-person launch games made me feel ill. The main culprit here is artificial locomotion. This is when a game binds first-person movement to a joystick. While this is fine on a flat-screen TV, in VR, your eyes are tricked into thinking your body is moving, but your body does not get the same cues. This disconnect can lead to wobbly sea legs. Sony tells me that gamers should take 15-minute breaks each hour to combat motion sickness, but that's not a very good long-term solution. While PSVR is cheaper than either the Rift or the Vive and doesn't require an expensive PC, there's a reason that high-quality VR is expensive. Sure, PSVR is more affordable, but it also takes some shortcuts. While it sometimes works surprisingly well given its constraints, it reminds me of the adage, you get what you pay for. As a VR fan, I want PSVR to succeed, but it trips up a bit too much to wholeheartedly recommend right now. If you have a PS4 and are dying to get PSVR, then I'd recommend the $500 bundle, which includes the PlayStation camera, 2 Move controllers, and PlayStation VR Worlds. If you have a PS4 and are simply curious about VR, I'd hold off until more titles are released. For everyone else, I'd recommend saving up for a better reality. For more gaming and hardware coverage, stay tuned to GameSpot.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel.